Picture someone who wakes up on their birthday, checks their phone, sees the flood of messages, and then quietly sets it aside. No plans, no party, no cake, just another Tuesday. They treat the day that celebrates their existence like it's completely ordinary. But here's the thing. This isn't about sadness or loneliness. It's about something far more complex happening beneath the surface. What drives someone to turn down the noise when the world expects them to celebrate? Most people see their birthday as a milestone, a moment to pause and acknowledge another year of life. But for some, that very spotlight creates an uncomfortable tension. These individuals find themselves caught between two worlds, the outer world that demands celebration and the inner world that craves peace. They notice everything. The rehearsed birthday wishes from acquaintances who barely remember their name, the forced enthusiasm in voices, the commercial machinery that turns personal milestones into transactions. They're watching all of this unfold, and instead of feeling celebrated, they feel studied. These are the people who live inside their own minds more than most. They're constantly observing reality, analyzing patterns, and questioning the social scripts everyone else seems to follow without hesitation. When their birthday arrives, it becomes just another day to observe how society operates. They see the expectations clearly. They understand what they're supposed to do: smile, express gratitude, post photos, appear grateful for the attention. But something about this performance feels hollow to them. Their natural tendency to reflect deeply on everything around them turns what should be a joyful day into an uncomfortable spotlight they never asked for. The observation doesn't stop there. They notice the timing of messages, the language people use, the patterns in who reaches out and who doesn't. They can tell when someone set a calendar reminder versus when someone genuinely remembered. They sense the obligation behind the gesture, the social contract being fulfilled rather than authentic care being expressed. This isn't paranoia or cynicism. It's pattern recognition working at full capacity. Their minds are built to detect inconsistencies, to notice what doesn't fit, to see beneath surfaces. On their birthday, when social performance reaches its peak, their observational abilities become almost overwhelming. Every interaction becomes data to process. Every message becomes a puzzle to decode. The mental exhaustion this creates is something most people never experience because most people take social rituals at face value. This brings us to something fascinating about how their minds work. These individuals exist in a constant state of thinking about their thinking. Psychologists call this metacognition, and for deep thinkers, it's not just an occasional exercise, it's their default mode. They're always one layer removed from direct experience, analyzing their own thoughts, questioning their own reactions, and examining their own feelings with the same scrutiny they apply to the world around them. Now imagine what happens when their birthday arrives. Suddenly, they're forced into this moment of self-assessment. Am I where I should be at this age? Have I accomplished enough? Do I deserve this attention? What have I actually done this year? The birthday becomes a magnifying glass on every perceived flaw, every unfinished goal, every way they feel they've fallen short. While others see birthdays as milestones to celebrate progress, these individuals see them as deadlines that expose inadequacy. Their heightened self-awareness turns every imperfection into high-definition detail. The celebration that's meant to honor them instead amplifies their self-doubt. So they downplay the day. They treat it normally. Not because they don't value their own life, but because the alternative means confronting an internal jury that never stops deliberating. Choosing normalcy becomes a defense mechanism against their own relentless self-examination. The metacognitive loop becomes particularly intense around milestone birthdays. When someone turns 30 or 40 or 50, society imposes additional layers of meaning onto the date. These become markers not just of time passing, but of where you should be in life. For the deep thinker, this external framework collides violently with their internal assessment. They're already their own harshest critic. Adding societal expectations creates a perfect storm of self-judgment. They compare themselves not just to their own standards, but to invisible benchmarks that everyone seems to agree upon, but nobody actually defined. The weight of this combined pressure makes the idea of celebration feel absurd. How can they celebrate when they're simultaneously cataloging every way they haven't measured up? But there's an important distinction to make here. This isn't the same as typical overthinking, where someone worries endlessly about future outcomes or replays past mistakes on loop. That kind of thinking is exhausting, but ultimately focused on specific concerns. What happens with these individuals goes deeper. They engage in existential thinking. They're not just worried about their personal future. They're questioning the nature of time itself, the purpose of existence, and the meaning behind all human experience. When you're someone who regularly contemplates why anything exists at all, a single birthday starts to feel almost absurd in its specificity. Why does one rotation around the sun matter in the context of cosmic time? Why should the arbitrary date of their birth carry more weight than any other day? They're not being cynical or depressed. They're genuinely grappling with these enormous questions, and their birthday forces a collision between infinite philosophical wondering and finite human tradition. The celebration feels too small for someone whose mind regularly operates at the scale of existence itself. So they choose the path that feels more aligned with their internal reality. They let the day pass quietly, treating it like the ordinary point in time that their philosophical framework tells them it actually is. This existential perspective creates an interesting relationship with mortality as well. While most people treat birthdays as celebrations of life, these individuals can't help but see them as markers of time passing, of moving closer to an inevitable end. Each birthday is simultaneously a beginning and an ending. It marks survival, but also loss. Another year of childhood gone. Another year of youth fading. Another year closer to whatever comes next. They hold all of these truths at once, unable to separate the joy from the grief, the celebration from the mourning. This isn't morbid thinking, it's honest thinking. It's refusing to pretend that aging only moves in one emotional direction. The complexity of this awareness makes simple celebration feel like denial, like choosing comfortable illusion over uncomfortable truth. Then there's the matter of what they notice in others. People who treat their birthdays normally tend to have an unusual gift for pattern recognition and a deep capacity for empathy. They see inconsistencies everywhere. They notice when someone's words don't match their body language. They pick up on subtle shifts in tone that reveal true feelings beneath polite surfaces. They can sense when enthusiasm is genuine and when it's performed. This perceptiveness becomes particularly sharp during birthday celebrations, which often bring out the most scripted, obligatory social behaviors in people. They hear the birthday wishes from people who only reach out once a year. They notice the generic messages, the recycled phrases, the hasty afterthoughts. What others might dismiss as normal social courtesy, they experience as shallow performance. It's not that they're ungrateful or judgmental. It's that their empathy runs so deep, they can feel the lack of genuine connection behind the gestures. They crave real intimacy, authentic relationships, and meaningful exchanges. The typical birthday celebration offers the opposite. It offers broad, shallow attention from many people, rather than deep, meaningful connection with a few. For someone whose empathy makes them feel everything at an intense level, this kind of surface interaction isn't just unfulfilling. It's actually draining. They'd rather have one honest conversation with someone who truly knows them than 100 cheerful messages from people who remember them once a year. So they opt out. They let the day pass without fanfare because the alternative means subjecting themselves to a parade of inauthenticity that their sensitive system can't comfortably process. The empathy extends beyond just reading people. It includes absorbing their expectations and feeling responsible for managing their emotions. When someone throws them a birthday party, they feel the pressure to appear sufficiently grateful, surprised, and delighted. They sense the effort that went into planning. They notice who showed up and who didn't. They feel responsible for making sure everyone else has a good time at the party meant to celebrate them. This emotional labor exhausts them before the celebration even begins. They end up performing gratitude while simultaneously analyzing their own performance, wondering if they're doing it right, questioning whether their reaction is adequate. The gift meant to bring joy becomes a source of stress because their empathy won't let them simply receive without considering everyone else's experience. Their minds also process experiences differently from most people. There's a concept in psychology called depth processing, which refers to encoding information with rich meaning, emotion, and personal associations. While some people experience events on a surface level, these individuals experience everything with layers of significance. A simple conversation carries emotional weight. A memory from years ago feels present and vivid. A casual comment can trigger cascades of reflection. This depth processing means their minds don't just store experiences, they soak in them, examine them from every angle, and connect them to vast networks of meaning. Now apply this to birthdays. Where others might experience their birthday as a pleasant day with some extra attention, these individuals experience it as a convergence point of their entire timeline. The past arrives with all its accumulated memories, both joyful and painful. The present demands assessment and acknowledgement. The future looms with questions about what comes next. All three timelines exist simultaneously in their awareness, each carrying emotional weight that others might not even perceive. The birthday becomes overwhelming not because they're sad, but because they're feeling everything all at once with an intensity that most people can't imagine. Treating the day normally isn't avoidance. It's their way of managing the massive emotional and cognitive load that the day naturally creates for them. The depth processing also means they remember previous birthdays with unusual clarity. Not just what happened, but how it felt, what it meant, who was there and who wasn't. These memories layer onto the current birthday, creating a palimpsest of experience where past celebrations bleed through into present moments. A birthday in their 30s might suddenly trigger vivid recall of a childhood birthday, complete with all the emotions they felt as a child. They experience time less linearly than most people. Past, present, and future collapse into simultaneous experience. This temporal fluidity makes the simple act of celebrating one specific day feel impossibly complex, because that day never exists in isolation. It exists in conversation with every birthday that came before and every birthday yet to come. There's also something crucial to understand about how these individuals recharge and find clarity. For most people, solitude is something to endure occasionally between social interactions. For deep thinkers, solitude is their native language. It's not loneliness, it's restoration. Being alone allows them to process the constant influx of information, emotion, and observation that their sensitive systems absorb every day. Social interaction, even positive social interaction, creates noise in their mental space. Birthdays, with their inherent focus on the individual, paradoxically create more noise than almost any other social occasion. The attention, the expectations, the emotional labor of receiving celebration gracefully, all of this generates mental static that drowns out their ability to think clearly. So they choose the opposite. They treat their birthday like a normal day specifically because they need space to process. They need quiet to restore their mental clarity. They need absence of external focus so they can maintain their internal focus. This isn't about avoiding people or rejecting love. It's about protecting the mental environment they need to function at their best. The celebration that others intend as a gift feels to them like interference with their essential operating system. Letting the day pass quietly isn't a rejection of joy. It's a necessary act of self-preservation that allows them to stay grounded in a world that already demands so much of their attention and energy. The need for solitude connects to something even deeper about their identity. These individuals often feel different from those around them, like they're operating on a frequency that others can't quite tune into. Birthdays make this feeling more acute. While everyone else seems naturally comfortable with celebration and attention, they feel like imposters performing normalcy. The disconnect between how they experience their birthday internally and how they're expected to express that experience externally creates a kind of identity dissonance. Choosing to treat the day normally becomes a way of honoring their true self, rather than performing a version of themselves that fits social expectations. It's an act of authenticity in a world that constantly pressures them toward conformity. But here's where things get particularly interesting, and this is the part that even these deep thinkers might not fully realize about themselves. Their powerful minds, the same minds that can see patterns and meanings that others miss, can also create illusions. When you spend your life analyzing everything, you can sometimes analyze yourself into conclusions that don't actually match reality. They might assume their birthday matters to no one, interpreting the lack of elaborate celebration as proof that they're not valued. They might read deep meaning into someone forgetting to call, constructing entire narratives about relationships based on a single oversight. They might convince themselves that nobody truly understands them, when the truth is they've been so careful about protecting their inner world that they've never fully let anyone in. Their choice to treat birthdays normally can sometimes be less about genuine preference and more about a self-imposed isolation that grew from over-analyzing social dynamics. The irony is profound. The very mind that prides itself on seeing truth can create its own blind spots. The analytical ability that feels like clarity can sometimes be a sophisticated form of self-protection disguised as wisdom. Not always, but sometimes. And recognizing this possibility, sitting with the discomfort of maybe not having it all figured out, is where real growth begins. This potential for self-created illusion manifests in subtle ways. They might interpret someone's enthusiastic birthday wish as fake, without considering that person might genuinely care, but simply express emotion differently. They might dismiss a party as performative without acknowledging that some people show love through action and planning. They might convince themselves they prefer solitude, when part of them actually craves connection, but has learned to protect against the pain of disappointment. The analytical mind that serves them so well in understanding the world can become a barrier to receiving the very things they actually want. Recognition without judgment connection without performance, love without conditions. These things exist, but their pattern-seeking mind has learned to spot the exceptions so reliably that it sometimes misses the genuine examples right in front of them. This brings us to the resolution that matters most. The healthiest version of this mindset isn't about choosing between celebration and solitude, between accepting attention and retreating from it. It's about recognizing a deeper truth. Peace doesn't come from finding the perfect answer to why birthdays feel complicated. Peace comes from being present with the complexity itself. The most profound shift happens when these individuals learn to let their thoughts serve their feelings rather than replace them. When they can experience the warmth of genuine connection without immediately analyzing whether it's authentic enough. When they can receive love without questioning whether they deserve it. When they can acknowledge their own existence without needing to justify its significance against cosmic scales. Their choice to treat birthdays normally at its best isn't about rejection or avoidance. It's an unconscious practice of something beautifully simple. They don't need more to feel complete. They need less performance, less obligation, less noise. The wisdom in their approach reveals itself here, in a culture that constantly pushes us toward more attention, more achievement, more proof of our worth. These individuals have stumbled onto something essential. They've discovered that simplicity itself can be profound, that choosing presence over performance isn't weakness, that finding peace in an ordinary day rather than seeking validation in an extraordinary one might actually be closer to truth than all the celebration in the world. This quiet observance isn't sadness, and it's not melancholy. It's awareness. It's the recognition that joy and grief are always intertwined, that every birthday marks both what we've gained and what we've lost, that celebrating another year means acknowledging all the complexity that comes with it. Most people try to push away this complexity in favor of simple joy. These individuals do the opposite. They sit with all of it at once. They honor their existence not by making it special, but by being fully present with how ordinary and extraordinary it actually is. That takes a kind of courage that often goes unrecognized. The courage to be honest about how you really feel, rather than how you're supposed to feel. The courage to trust your own experience even when it doesn't match what everyone else seems to want for you. The world needs people who can slow down the rush of life and find meaning in the mundane. We need people who question social scripts and look for truth beneath surface traditions. We need people whose depth of thought reminds us that there's more to experience than what we can see on the surface. The individuals who treat their birthdays like normal days aren't missing out on joy. They're practicing a different kind of appreciation, one that doesn't require fanfare to be real, one that finds value in simply being alive, regardless of whether anyone else is watching. That's not something to fix or change. That's wisdom wearing the quiet clothes of an ordinary day. So if you recognize this in yourself, if you've ever felt guilty for not wanting the celebration everyone else insists you should have, maybe this is your permission to trust yourself. Your way of honoring your life is valid, even if it looks different from everyone else's. And if you recognize this in someone you love, maybe the greatest gift you can give them isn't the party. It's the space to be exactly who they are, celebrated not for what they do on their birthday, but for who they are every single day. Because in the end, isn't that what anyone really wants? To be seen, to be understood, and to be loved not for meeting expectations, but for being beautifully, complicatedly, authentically themselves.